Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us into this webinar. Before we dive into the demo session of the new web part, let me talk a little bit about what we have here and what are the new features that we will release with this web part. So first of all, weather is a functionality that exists since the beginning of our web parts. It was part of the tiles web part, but it was kind of limited in terms of what you can do and in terms of what customizations can you provide to your users in the SharePoint site. And it always needs to be connected to one of our tiles list. To get rid of some of those limitations, we've decided to build a complete weather web part that not only allows you to define locations, predefined locations to display the weather, but also gives the power to your end users to define their own locations. So from now on, your users will be able to interact with the web part settings, and they will be able to change the location of the weather web part. This web part provides a complete daily weather information. This can display the weather forecast for the next 6 days. You can check the wind, pressure, humidity. You can check the weather in Celsius and Fahrenheit, and you can also detect your location by default. This was a feature that was available in the tiles web part, but we know that for some of you guys that are behind VPNs, the location was not the correct location that was detected by the browser. Because of that, we've implemented a way where you can define your own location if needed. We provide 2 weather providers. We have Yahoo Weather, that it's free, and we have Weather Underground, that it's a paid service. They will basically get you the same weather information, but the Weather Underground will work 100% of the times, while with the Yahoo Weather, since it's free, we cannot guarantee that it will always work. And we have 4 different layouts for you to select from, and all those layouts can be customized, and you can get rid of some of the settings like we will see in the demo. This is the first web part that we release at the same time for classic SharePoint environment and for SharePoint framework. And this is available since day 1 for SharePoint 2013, SharePoint 2016, Office 365, Classic, and Modern SharePoint. The Modern SharePoint, even though the support it's already available for SharePoint 2016, we are only supporting SharePoint Online due to the framework version that it's now available for SharePoint 2016. You will find 3 different packages inside of your web part package, and we will continue to provide the web part as a WSP sandbox solution with only declarative files. We will have the add-in or app model that will work across all SharePoint versions, and then we will have the new format, the framework version that will work on SharePoint Online. And without further ado, let's see how the web part looks like once applied to a SharePoint site. And I have here one of the modern SharePoint sites inside of the Office 365, and I have 3 instances of the same web part into this page. So let's start by edit the page and bring up the settings. The first thing that you can do is define your default city, and this is the value that your users will see by default when they go to the page where the web part is located. Then you can define the weather provider, and For the weather underground, if you go with this option over here, you will then need to place the API key in this placeholder in order to get the information into the web part. Then in terms of layouts, we have 4 different ones, like I told you, and we have the possibility to use or remove the background image and to remove pressure, humidity, and wind, and to display the forecast. And for scenarios where themes will be used with the web part, we can also use the font of the theme. And then we have our advanced options, and those are related with the errors that are generated by the web part or by the info message that are generated by the web part. So here we have the layouts of the web parts applied to the website. So I will get rid of the first one, and I will look at this one that it's currently displaying London. So I'm not located in London, I'm located in Clodochond. So this was the predefined location. If I want to change this to my current location, the only thing that I need to do as an end user and as a user that doesn't have any permissions to edit the page, the only thing that I have to do is click on Detect My Location. And if for some reason this does not detect my location correctly, I can go further and type my location over here and select from this location. And from now on, everything that I type over here will be stored on my browser. Next time that I will visit this page, I will have all this information stored in the browser, so I will not need to define this information again. Same thing works for the Celsius and Fahrenheit units to display the temperature, and for the hour and the time zone that it's displayed over here. Now, if I open again the settings and if I uncheck this option and this option, as you can see, the layout adjusts and displays only the weather without the pressure and humidity details and without the forecast details on it. The web parts are fully responsive. They will always adjust to the size of the screen, and I will save this page just to show you how they react and how they behave with the page. And underneath this, I have another web part that it's using the full width, and as you can see, it also adjusts to the size of the screen. So I will resize this, and you will see that the content will start to adjust to display, adjusted to the size of the area where the web part is placed. This is how the web part is defined and how you configure the web part in the modern SharePoint environment. In the classic environment, things work in a similar way. I have here the smallest layout that we have for this web part, that it's this tiny rectangle that we have here. And if you are already familiar with our web parts, the options are available from this BindTuning bar. And when I click on BindTuning, this brings up a similar bar like we have in the modern environment. And when I click in the properties, this brings up a form where you have exactly the same options that you have in the modern interface, but with the classic layout. And from here, I can select all the options and all the layouts that are available for the web part and enable and disable the same options. So this is basically what the web part does. It provides you the weather for your intranet. It allows you to provide weather information to your employees, but most importantly, it gives your employees the control over the results that are displayed by the web part and gives the users of the internet the power to set up the web part without the need to call the administrator or call someone else to change the location that it's defined in the web part by default. And with Let me go to my presentation. And with this being said, during this Q1, we will release our quick links web part, our alerts web part, maps, and calendar. All of these web parts are already available for classic SharePoint environment, but they will also be available for the SharePoint framework. So we will have during this year all our products available for classic SharePoint and for modern SharePoint. We want to provide you guys the same experience that you currently have on classic. We want to provide you exactly the same experience in modern. We are already working on themes. If you are familiar with our themes, we provide themes that change the look and feel of SharePoint, and we will provide those as well during this year for the modern SharePoint. And with this being said, I will open the Q&A. If you have any question about the web part or about our next releases, please use the chat window, and I will be glad to help you to reply to your questions. So there's already one question from Bruno. Is there a small size layout? And the answer is yes. The smallest layout that we have is the one that I have applied here on Classic. And this is the smallest that this web part is displayed, but even the other layouts, you can set up them to display just the weather and the hours and get rid of the forecast and the pressure and humidity, and you will end up with a smaller layout for the other layouts as well. Okay. Another question from Bruno, can the web part identify the location of the user based on Active Directory? No, the location of the user is identified by the HTML5 location properties, and that's the only thing that we use to define the location of the user. Then you can define a predefined location for your web part. And by default, if nothing is defined, it will immediately get the weather for New York, and that's the default city when you first install the web part. Okay, a new question from Michael. Do you have any IE bots coming out? Mike, unfortunately, we don't have plans to release bots for now, but who knows, we can think about it later this year. Kevin asks, can we overwrite the background image with our own? Kevin, with the Classic web part, it is easy to do that since all the assets will be available directly in the style library and you will have access to them. So you can overwrite our own images with yours. On the modern, things will be a bit different because everything will be hosted inside of the app catalog. So it will not be easy to change the default images. Okay, Bruno asks clarification, can the end user change the city or it needs to be the content editor on the web part settings? The end user can definitely change the city, but that change will be visible just for that specific end user, and the information will be stored on the browser local storage.
John, did you question there about changing the speed?
Okay, there's a new question from Fabian. How do you install it on Office 365? So on Office 365, basically there are three different ways to install it. Either you can install it directly from Site Settings, Solutions, and apply your solution directly from the root site of your site collection, and that way you will have to manually install it to all the site collections where you want to have this, or it will be possible to install this to all site collections when we release our provisioning engine that will automate the deployment of the web parts. And the only thing that you have to do is upload the solution, activate it, and it will be immediately available within this site collection. The other two options for Office 365 are the app catalog, the global app catalog, where you can upload your modern package for the web part or the classic add-in or app file, and those need to be then deployed for the site collection where you want to install it. You have to add the app for the add-in model. For the modern SharePoint, you will be able to check to make the solution visible to all the sites and site collections, and you will have it available for modern sites and classic sites at once. Okay, we have another question. Can it be a fixed location for still and editable for users? No, right now all the users will have the option to change the location, but like I said before, the location defined by the user will be only visible to that specific user. But this change location option, it's always available in here. In the future, we can review this, and we can integrate the setting in the web part that will allow you as an administrator to disable this possibility. Okay, a new question. Can you talk a little bit about themes in your coming soon list? Okay, so themes will be available for modern sites, and the main goal behind our themes for the modern experience is to create a similar experience without drastic transitions from modern to classic. That it's something that happens right now with the SharePoint. Themes will use SharePoint framework extensions, and using that technology that is part of the SharePoint framework, we will be able to provide you the same layout with the same menus and footers that you are used to have with the classic environment with our classic themes. And they will be deployed globally through the app catalog, and then you will be able to select what will be the site collections where you want to have them applied. Another question from Ivan Hernandez. Will the web part default to Fahrenheit, Celsius degrees, depending on the user location? The answer to this question is no, for now, but this will happen in the future. In the upcoming releases, we will have this as an option, and we will also add this as a predefined setting in the web part. Okay, we have a new question. How will the web part behave in a closed internal network? So to use the web part, it's not required to have internet connection. The assets will be stored locally on your system. The only thing that will not work in a closed internal network without external access will be the trials that require internet access due to all the trial validations that are involved. And regarding the location, you will have to have access to the web. Otherwise, you will not have the information for the weather that it's exclusively provided from the web.
Okay, it looks like that's the last of the questions there. Also, too, Lily just posted a great blog link from that we posted today about kind of what we're doing and the framework, SharePoint framework, and kind of where BindTuning plays. And I think everybody saw the slide too as well, representing kind of how we're releasing the web parts, and the themes will be coming out here in Q1 as well. Part of the delay on the themes is due to the code not being completely stable yet for Microsoft. So as soon as we see that we can deploy on that code base, then we'll absolutely get out there. So if there's not any other questions, we have a question about cache. Joan, can you answer that?
Yeah, so this web part will not have a cache option like all the other ones have, because what the web part does by default is storing the information in the local storage of the browser. So by default, the web part does the cache that we have for the other web parts as well, like we have for the other web parts, but that option, it's not visible to the user because it's what the web part does by default.
Great. And then Bruno had a question about pricing. And Bruno, the great thing about our web part pricing is that when you subscribe to the web part Office Suite bundle, you get all the new web parts coming out as part of your subscription. And then also you get all the new SharePoint framework web parts as well. So a lot of value now in the way that we're pricing those. So there won't be any price increase with those. So you get both sets, Classic, and you get the SharePoint framework web parts, and we have a whole slew of new web parts coming out this year. So besides weather, it's going to be a pretty robust year for us. Okay, want to be respectful of everybody's time. We really appreciate everybody making 30 minutes available to us today, and we'll have this recording bundled up and posted on our website, and we're going to continue to do these, keep these about 30 minutes long. And thank you again for coming, and have a great day.